But we've got to look at our educational system. We are spending $12,000 a year. It's going through 1,000 people at the Department of Education in 85 school districts before it ever touches a student and teacher in the classroom. And we are only graduating 1 out of every 2 kids in 4 years. 1 out of every 2. We've got to make sure we set up vocational programs starting in the 9th grade, that they are ready for technical schools when they get out of college, so that in these rural areas, we are actually getting the skilled workforce so that we can bring these companies in and know that we can build up those areas so that they're effective.
Mr. Bauer?
We need 4 regional offices for the Department of Commerce. It shouldn't just be in Columbia. The Commerce should be working with the local folks to find out exactly what they need. You need a governor that can travel the world and sell South Carolina, whether it's Nanya Plastics right here in this area, and I've been to Taiwan and visited their home office and built a relationship with them. We need an intermodal port in South Carolina to plan for the future when the Panama Canal is finished in 2014. I've actually been there and met with the shipping companies, also met with the shipping companies in Charleston. You're going to have to start planning for the future, and whether you have to bond it, whether you do a private-public partnership, we need an intermodal port to plan for our future. We also have got to do something about our tax structure in South Carolina. We do everything we can to discourage people from investing in South Carolina, whether you look at what we charge now on property owned by businesses. Because of Act 388, we've discouraged anyone from buying new property. We're putting the burden on the businesses.
Time's up. Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Rusty Ray has the next question. It will be addressed to Attorney General McMaster.
Mr. McMaster, you've made the fight against internet crimes against children and more recently the fight against the federal health care bill and its impact on South Carolinians, some of the hallmarks of your time as Attorney General of the state. What can you do to make economic development for all of South Carolina a hallmark of your time as governor?
Well, as I began to explain a minute ago, in my time as Ronald Reagan's first United States attorney in the country, which is an executive position, and again is my first elected position, that is, as Attorney General, I know that you have to have a team working together that among them know all there is to know about the problem that you're trying to solve, the challenge you're trying to meet. So what I would do with economic development is do something that has not been done before, because we need to reform, that we need to change the way we do it. And we need to have it led by the governor. There needs to be a strategic plan, and I've already published one on how to get there. And you need to have all of these assets. The port we have one of the best ports in the country. It's a deep water port. Our agriculture potential right along the I-95 corridor is second to none, but we're not marketing it globally. And the farmers and those are not getting the kind of information, the data and information and strategies they need. They need to be a part of working with the Department of Commerce. Tourism, I'd take the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism and separate tourism off, and Parks and Recreation are doing something else. But we have great economic engines in tourism in South Carolina, but we're not promoting them, and they're not coordinating with these others. The technical college system is second to none. We need to get our taxes down. But we need a leader who knows how to get things done. Now, I've shown with the internet predators, other laws I've gotten passed through the General Assembly, I had to fight for some of them pretty hard, but I know how to work with people and get things done. We got to keep the federal government off our back, and that's why I sued them. And we have to see that the things they're not doing, like immigration, we have to step forward and do that, and I know how to enforce those laws.
Thank you, Mr. McMaster. Ms. Haley, 30 seconds.
You know, when we look at economic development, first of all, I will tell you that I will get someone that leads our Commerce Department that really thinks out of the box and understands it's about the quality of companies and not quantity of companies. I will talk with that person on a daily basis. They will meet with our regional directors on a monthly basis. But then let's look at an example. Let's look at Boeing. Boeing was a great win for South Carolina, but Boeing basically came for 2 reasons. One, because we're a right-to-work state. We keep the unions out. We need to stay that way. But 2, because they got tax incentives. 95% of our economy is small businesses. Why aren't we taking care of the businesses we already have? When you go and create that environment, companies will come here not because we smile and take them to dinner, but because it makes sense to their bottom line and it makes sense to their profit margin.
Mr. Bauer?
When you're a business person, you don't just look at taxes. Taxes are a part of it, but every state is now throwing out tax incentives to lure business. When a business comes here, much like Carol Campbell did, you've got to sit down with them and have them a comfort level. Let them know there's going to be capable workforce and that your technical schools will work with them. Let them know that DHEC is not going to hold that project up, and when they're ready to turn dirt, bureaucrats won't stop the project. City and county government have got to be there to let them know that they're ready to work with them. All of these things have a combined entrance to the person that's actually looking at moving here, and they've got to have a comfort level with the person they're working with.
Mr. Barrett.
When I think about economic development, I think of our Palmetto Energy Project. It's a 2-pronged attack. First, it taps into the offshore natural gas reserves in South Carolina, 4 billion cubic feet. The National Petroleum Institute says that could be 2,200 jobs and $250 million of royalties that we can use in South Carolina as we see fit. The other side of that equation is nuclear. There's 4 nuclear reactors on the board in South Carolina. To put it in perspective, this year's budget for the state was $5 billion. Those 4 nuclear reactors represent a $25 billion investment in South Carolina, which are real jobs, real growth, and real economic opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Next question from Harry Logan with Francis Marion, and it's for State Representative Nikki Haley.
Ms. Haley, if you were elected governor, do you think questions raised about your personal life would affect your ability to recruit jobs and industry to South Carolina?
Not at all, because the questions raised about my personal life aren't true. You know, it's funny how there were no questions brought up until 2 weeks prior to the election, and when I suddenly became double-digit leader in the polls. I mean, I think that anybody will tell you that everything I've done in the General Assembly has been pushed for accountability, to really bring out the truth, whether it's through term limits or getting legislators to disclose their income or showing spending online, has been very important. Will tell you that my husband and I have been proud and faithful to each other for 13 years. I think it is sad. This is South Carolina politics at its worst. I was called by Governor Mitt Romney. I was called by Governor Sarah Palin. I was called by Jenny Sanford. And all 3 of them said, this is what happens when you start to lead. And it won't get any better. You just fight your way through. What I am proud to say is the phones have not stopped ringing with positive calls. We have run out of yard signs. We have run out of bumper stickers. And everyone has been incredibly supportive. I will lead the way I've always led in the General Assembly, which is not to sit there and please the guys at the State House, but to make sure that I'm working for the people of this state. That's what the people of this state want. I have gone against the General Assembly on a lot of things that they don't like, but that's not going to stop me from fighting. I'm going to continue to do that regardless of what the attacks they keep trying to throw my way.
Mr. Bauer, 30 seconds.
Well, I actually, having run against the governor's son, having run against members of the legislature and against the establishment all my life, they've always supported somebody else. They've pretty much gone after every little bit of my personal life that's been out there, so I don't know what else is left.
Maybe they can find something.
I'm sure they'll try.
Or try. Mr. Barrett.
For the record, Andre Bauer's a good guy, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
You know, I abhor what's happening to Ms. Haley, to me with third parties. I mean, it has no place in South Carolina. South Carolinians deserve better and expect more. But unfortunately, character does matter. My dad told me early on, it's not one of the things that matters, it is the only thing that matters. And if there's ever been a time in our history, ladies and gentlemen, where we need leaders above reproach, it's today. Because people look, people pay attention, and we've got to turn the page in South Carolina.
Mr. McMaster.
Well, the governor of all people is always under a microscope, and you have to do the right thing. And we've all been subject to unfounded personal attacks. I've got one newspaper in Columbia that's been following my children around for a couple of weeks now, trying to find something. Unfortunately, Nikki, as you know, it is a part of politics, but it should not be. But I tell you what, if the governor does the right thing, if you stand up for the people and you try to attack the problems that we have and work hard, we'll be all right.
Our next question is coming from Jackie Tork, and it will be directed toward Lieutenant Governor Bauer.
Mr. Bauer, your Senior Shield program, which is designed to protect senior citizens from fraud, has been criticized for, among other things, duplicating services offered in the private sector. How do you reconcile that with your calls for a reduction in government-funded public assistance, most notably welfare?
The federal government and the state government actually demanded and required that I do something about senior fraud. Sure, the private sector says they do it. But if so, why is there so much senior fraud in South Carolina? And why did the Joint Assembly on Aging come together and say, Lieutenant Governor, please do something? Yancey McGill, a senator in this very area, his mother was cheated out of thousands of dollars, and the people came together and said, somebody's got to take up the cause. So we did take up the cause, and now the taxpayers actually get a check back. Every year when people sign up for this program, they actually get the money back now. And so we've got private businesses having to be vetted before they do business with these seniors, and now seniors actually have somewhere they can go to make sure that they have a comfort level second to none when they do business with people that are going to be in their home. They don't have to worry about somebody taking advantage of them, and that's what government's supposed to do, and those seniors are now better